Hello everybody, welcome back for another video. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're all having a great day. Hope you're all existing great. I don't know what else to put there. You know the deal. I just woke up, so if I sound a little crazy, it's because I rolled out of bed. So yeah. Welcome back to what I'm going to call another edition of Can you see the pattern? Because everyone's basically talking about the exact same thing. If for some reason you've been living under a rock, you've been living in the unknown in the forest somewhere by yourself and haven't been paying attention, the major news of the century is that we are inching ever closer to the Bitcoin halving, and it is basically all that's being discussed now, and it will probably be for at least like a week even after the halving has taken place. People will then just be looking at where the price is going to go, the effects of the supply shocker that we are already in. If you've been missing the last couple of videos, the lack of actual Bitcoin on the market is a bit insane at this point. We had a news story that apparently major banks are now going directly to the people who are mining Bitcoin and trying to buy Bitcoin from them because they don't, or rather they can't find they can't buy Bitcoin anywhere else. I can't form the sentence right now. Then the idea is that they've been trying to go to maybe other investors who are unwilling to sell. They've been going directly to crypto exchanges who mainly sell OTC. But as I've gone over before, one of the main misconceptions is that all of the coins on crypto exchanges are liquid and available to be bought and sold and given away at any given time. And it's not true. There are millions upon millions of people who have their Bitcoin on crypto exchanges with no intention of selling it. They use it as an additional place to simply hold their coins. They may have ledgers, they may have it on Coinbase, they may have some on Kraken. You know, it's just the way that the world is. People like to not have all their eggs in one basket. And as such, these banks, realizing that they now need Bitcoin, whether it be on their portfolio, their balance sheet, or simply to also be able to sell to customers who are using the bank, they now aren't able to do so because the mining companies also are mining for themselves. This was something years ago as well that people still haven't gotten, and I don't understand how we got this far, but not this far, where people aren't understanding that the companies who are mining these coins aren't dumping all of these coins onto the market. Like, they're not doing it for free. They're not spending hundreds of millions per year to mine Bitcoin to just give all of it away, throw it back onto the market, and sometimes even sell it at a loss. They only sell when they're trying to basically keep the lights on. Everything else is Bitcoin profit, and it's theirs. So today in the news, the last 2 months have been a little bit odd, and I dare even say odd in a good way, in that typically, historically, we have seen that when people give their ideas as to where Bitcoin is going, where they think it's, what's next, that kind of thing, they're always all over the place. But a lot of people, as of late, have been giving their ideas on where Bitcoin is going. And the weird part is that they're all coming to the same conclusion. I've been saying that for weeks now. As someone who, goes over daily cryptocurrency news for the past, I think 7 or 8 years at this point. But also just like finding like the literal patterns in what people are saying. It's actually really weird because normally you'd have someone at A, you'd have someone at X, you'd have someone at M. And now everyone's kind of landing on the exact same letter at the exact same time. So you'll see exactly what I'm talking about as we actually go through it a bit. An analyst known as Tech Dev has shared insights with people on Twitter, suggesting that Bitcoin's price could double from its current value. It says 69,000. It's always 70 something thousand, depending on when you're actually looking at the price. The amount of volatility right now is great. We need this amount of volatility. It shows that there's money pumping into the market. Tech Dev says that Bitcoin's price could potentially double from a roughly around $70,000 within the next 3 months. So keep this in mind. We're currently in a situation where there's not enough Bitcoin, for the everyday average person. We've gone over that a multitude of times. 21 million coins. We've only mined 19 million. Anywhere from 2 to 5 to 7 million are lost and gone forever. Depends on what kind of metrics you're looking at. We have banks now who are going directly to the people who are mining the Bitcoin, and they cannot, they're not selling it to the banks because they simply don't have enough, and they're keeping whatever that they actually have. We see that even currently. That, once again, what's the narrative? BlackRock is buying anywhere from 10 to 13 times the amount of Bitcoin that's mined per day. The problem is that people who are mining Bitcoin aren't throwing all of their coins onto the market. So basically, BlackRock and Fidelity are gathering dust that's simply left out there that people have, sold at some point. And the supply crunch is crazy. When we have the actual halving, and this is what I've been waiting for a long time, you don't understand how excited I am for this halving. I've been writing it on Twitter for weeks. It's all me and my friends are talking about. It's like the thing that's constantly over all of our heads that we've all been talking about. You cannot imagine how excited I am for this halving. And it's mainly because I want people to have that reignite, if you will, of this passion for the market that we only always see after the halving. It's always the exact same. Everyone really gets it and understands it. It's on all the news channels. Everyone's talking about it. And Bitcoin's price begins to pump. It's always the exact same way, as people only then realize how rare that Bitcoin actually is. The difference this time is that our price predictions have been kind of spot on, actually even behind. Remember the beginning of this year, we were told that Bitcoin might go to around $50,000. That's also keeping in mind that this time last year, Bitcoin was $22,000, $24,000. It was, it was far lower. So the idea of Bitcoin just doubling was fantastic. Wow, can't wait for it. Because historically, 9 months after, we would have seen it hit the new all-time high. That is to say, January, February 2025. And then we kind of just sit there and wait patiently until Bitcoin maybe doubles by the end of 2025. The difference is now is quite dramatic. These companies are trying to buy all the Bitcoin that they can because they know exactly what's coming. I cannot stress this enough. I know I've been saying it so many times, and I know some of you are probably even plugging your ears or have walked away from the computer. You're not understanding what's going on. Everything that's happening right now should not be taking place for the next couple of years. I told you all that years ago. This crunch that we're currently seeing is all coordinated by these. They're not sharks. They're not whales. They're like belugas. I don't know if it just sounds like it's bigger. They're circling around the market, eating everything that they can. And then you hear on the news how much that they have. And we get news that the price is dipped. And I see the dissatisfaction and people walking away from the market going, well, I'll just wait till the prices go back up. And it's you're not really understanding what's happening, especially when all these people are coming to the exact same conclusion. The idea of Bitcoin doubling in price in 3 months is absolutely insane. Do you want to tell me why? Because do you remember the numbers? So once we hit the current all-time high of $73,000 just a few weeks ago, do you remember the numbers that Cathie Wood and every other analyst said that we would hit by the end of 2024, December? They all said 150,000. They thought it would take, and I air quote here, a long trek, that is to say, through the seasons until we get to December, for Bitcoin to be able to double. And that led them to the idea or the conclusion that we would actually then have a $300,000, $400,000, or $500,000 Bitcoin by October 2025. If we double in price in the next 3 months, and the sad part is, the saddest part is that it's totally believable. If you've been following this channel, and I mean consistently, you understand exactly what that, how easy it will be for us to get to that number. People are already saying that they're expecting $100,000 Bitcoin, a week or two after the actual halving. We know that there's not a lot of Bitcoin left. And this is what I think is making me so excited, is because I want everyone else to like feel the same exact sentiment. I know, I believe me, I've seen the comment section. I've seen you guys on Twitter. Hello, I'm giving you a digital high five. I see people who totally understand it, who totally get it. I see you talking about like TMI. I get it. I've been with you for a while. Another digital high five. Like, really, like I'm actually throwing my hand into the air to give you a high five. I look a little crazy. But the point is that everyone else doesn't get it. Everyone else is not understanding. The other YouTubers who are making these videos about these Solana meme coins and will Ethereum have an ETF is all a distraction from everything that's actually going on right now. The slowdown that we had in ETF accumulation came from when we had that dip to, what was it, $65,000 in Bitcoin, like a couple of days ago, however long it was. And even then, the inflows that we had into the ETFs, the number I remember off the top of my head was still at its lowest, $114 million. And the people were like, oh, it's not a lot of money. And I'm like, well, if you compare it to the 600 million that was flowing in every single day, 114 million doesn't then seem like a lot, but it's still a staggering amount of money. Because realistically, if the price had dropped, that number could have been zero. There could have been zero interest in pushing money into the market, but they still had $114 million on the worst day. And for those of you who haven't been keeping track, that number has picked up once again. The last number that I saw was $400 million still flowing into the ETFs, and people are pretending that that's not something absolutely freaking insane right now. So when we have the halving and the amount of Bitcoin that's being pushed out of the machine gets cut in half, it's going to get real, because for a number of reasons. These people who are mining Bitcoin, once they're not selling all of the Bitcoin that they mine back onto the market, and they're going to be even less incentivized to sell these coins because Bitcoin has gotten rarer. It has doubled in rarity. There's going to be less coins actually hitting the market as they already currently are right now. Can you imagine a bank coming up to you and saying, hey, we have several $1 billion, and you have to tell them, no, we need that for ourselves. Now imagine the common man. Imagine how less reluctant they're going to be to put their coins back onto the market for us. And then you still have the situation where the only narrative that we currently have is the idea of BlackRock's buying. BlackRock's in the market. BlackRock's doing this. Look at what Larry Fink is doing on TV. You're forgetting about the other 8 companies. You're forgetting about the other companies in Canada and in Australia and in Europe who already have ETFs, who are also accumulating. Their numbers may only be $5 to $10 to $15 million, so it's not as impressive. You know how much $5 million worth of Bitcoin is per day? It's a lot of Bitcoin. Now imagine when Bitcoin doubles in rarity. The idea of us doubling in value in the next 3 months is insane, because it means the price discovery window blows wide open. If people were predicting at the current levels of accumulation, for those of you, we also haven't seen the retail investors FOMO into the market. The retail investors being the non-accredited ones, the everyday normal people, if you will. There's always a swing into the market, and it happens usually at some significant number, and people, throw themselves into the market. And it's expected that we're going to get to that moment when we hit $100,000 per Bitcoin. The normal everyday people will see that they could have made money before, so they begin to throw more money into the market, expecting to kind of ride the wave of the bull run. The majority of what we're seeing right now is institutional money being pumped into the space, knowing that the retail investors are going to come. If the idea is that at the end of the year, we should hit $150,000 Bitcoin, and we're supposed to, I'm going to show you the other articles as well. 3 months, that means by the end of the year, we could easily have a $180,000, $200,000 Bitcoin. It's because there's literally not a lot left. I'm not sure if I've made sure to show you all of that news every single day over the course of the last 2 years. If we get to a $200,000 Bitcoin by the end of this year, it leaves the door completely open for a $500,000 to a $600,000 Bitcoin. And what have we been talking about consistently? Once a Bitcoin is worth more than property, people are going to lose their minds over it. It's always a hindsight 2020 kind of thing. People will look and go, of course it was going to happen. I've had that tons of times with things in this market. You would not believe the amount of times I've sat there and of course it was going to hit that number. Of course it was going to. people have a very, and I say this in this way. I do a lot of economic research. I love watching economic documentaries, not like the really like catch your attention kind of ones where like it's really dramatic for no reason, but like I love hearing like actual like economic news of what's going on, what people can do, what they can't do, real estate, like the other markets, world markets, like what the crunch that people are currently going through, especially that's only been accelerated since 2020. A lot of people cannot and probably will not ever be able to own a home. That's the way that the world currently is shaped, especially as real estate becomes more and more expensive. The idea or the feeling that people are going to have when they realize, when the realization comes in that they could have, and I say this in a first worldly manner, could have purchased an entire Bitcoin at $15,000, done so, and once again, first world, in a sort of way, or thrown their money into it when it was at $30,000, and then Bitcoin's valuation shoots up to $250,000, $300,000 per coin. That's the equivalent of a house in many places around the world. The idea of you putting $15,000 into something and having the equivalent value of a house is going to drive people completely insane because it shows them that Bitcoin was correct the entire time. The issue is that this is still 2024, 2025 timeframe that we're talking about. What happens when Bitcoin goes to over $1 million per coin? The FOMO is going to be absolutely outrageous. But at that point, what we need to push us up to $1 million Bitcoin is not very much. It's just simply scarcity. So people, I told you, we are going to live in a world. I don't know why it's so bad today. We are going to live in a world where people are going to be bragging to you that they have 50,000, 100,000 Satoshis. And that's when Bitcoin gets over $1 million, because they want to be part of it. And they will realize that they could have been part of it. And this is part of the whole thing that we've been talking about right now. All these companies are in this space to accumulate, to make sure that they are at the top of the mountain. According to Tech Dave, Bitcoin has closed 2 consecutive months above the upper Bollinger Band, a technical indicator used to measure momentum and volatility. News like this is all over the place. It's what a lot of people are talking about. I told you all before, a lot of the numbers that we're getting are matching up to all the other, what do you call it? All the other analysts as well. They all have relatively similar numbers. You might remember that even that 1 week, we had about like 12 different people over the course of multiple videos who were all throwing out the number $300,000 per Bitcoin. Some of them said 320, some of them said 280, but they were all coming to the exact same conclusion and the exact same numbers. Also in the news is Scaramucci, who's back. I mean, he's basically in the news like every other day, but it's really odd because this time he's kind of one of those people who, not to discredit him in any way, but he's someone in the market who kind of like says the obvious and then people kind of like applaud when the obvious ends up happening. It was like a number of years ago when people were like, yeah, Bitcoin's definitely going to 10,000. Then it went to 20,000. Everyone's like, oh, he's a genius. And it's like, no, he just looked at his chart and kind of just set a number that was lower. So Scaramucci has said that basically the halving is not priced in. What? That's crazy. I would have never gotten that. And for those of you not looking at the screen, he says, I think Bitcoin has a lot more to go, has a lot more room to run, if you will. This was also one of the most popular news stories that was out there, simply because it's a rich person on TV talking about the Bitcoin halving, how it's not priced in, and how Bitcoin has farther to go up. I've been telling you all that for 2 years, so I also hope at some point the public is also standing to applaud me as well. Yeah, the halving, of course, is not priced in. All we've been seeing, and I think a lot of analysts have been doing this, not Scaramucci, but I think a lot of analysts have kind of been just making sure that they state the obvious to kind of like get attention. People were stating before that they thought that Bitcoin's price was moving up simply because of the halving. And it was like, no, we were way too early. We were moving up because we heard that $500 million per day was being scooped up in Bitcoin by just a couple of companies. We kept on hearing that these companies had 50,000 Bitcoin, 100,000 Bitcoin. Then we singled out Fidelity and BlackRock, and we were like, now they have 200,000 Bitcoin. 200,000 Bitcoin that's 1% of all the Bitcoin out there. And they got that in what, 5 or something weeks? They're still accumulating massive amounts of it. The gold ETF discussion is still also there, which I think is completely played out. The entire gold ETF thing reminds me of, I mean, on the nose, reminds me of a number of years ago where Brad Garlinghouse was always on TV talking about the benefits of crypto. And one of the main things that he kept on saying was like, you don't want to like go into an airplane with like a bag full of gold, right? And I was like, the first time he said it, I was like, clever. That sounds amazing. Yeah, I don't want to go into an airplane, full of gold. And then the 38th time he said it, I was like, who wrote your script? Like, that's all you have. Like, there's nothing. So people keep talking about how long it took the gold ETFs to get a certain amount of money into them, how it took the Bitcoin just a couple of days to do the exact same thing. And like, we get it. Like the Bitcoin and the Bitcoin ETFs are far better and stronger and more robust and have more money in them than gold ever could. We've also been seeing that people have been selling off their gold. I'm not sure if there's like some kind of a rich person like tipping the hat on TV, indicating to other wealthy people what they should be doing kind of thing, as far as like making sure to mention gold, and therefore you're not saying sell gold, but you're giving the indication that gold isn't going to outperform Bitcoin in any sort of way. This guy is also in the news, and I can't roll my eyes enough. There's so many Peters in this space. There's Peter Brandt, there's Peter Schiff, there's Peter Rabbit, there's a fourth Peter as well. There's all these different Peters in this space, but I think it's Peter Schiff, the gold guy, was also recently in the news, and I'm actually embarrassed for him. Like, I feel like quite cringe every time I see his name now. He said something on TV. This was like 2 days ago that he was like, yeah, Bitcoin's going to 0 and gold's going to double. And I was like, where are you seeing that? And he understands the market as well. Like, if he was brand new into the space, I would kind of give him a pass and go, oh, feel kind of bad for him. But he knows what the halving is. He's been talking about Bitcoin for the last 10, 12, 13 years. It's just like, so anyway, yes, we all know that the halving is not priced in. Like, it's not even remotely closely priced in. It's only when we pass by $100,000 that people will actually get it and will really understand. But we are going to live in a world. We are going to live in a world where one Bitcoin is worth more than a home. It will be soon worth more than a mansion. When we get to $1 million Bitcoin, people are going to understand that they should have been buying Bitcoin the entire time. This is what also makes me really annoyed seeing, once again, I understand that money is the name of the game, but what annoys me about a lot of the people who make cryptocurrency news videos and what have you is they're constantly talking about these crappy coins, knowing that they're not going to last. None of these coins are going to last against Bitcoin at all, ever. It's just simply not going to be a thing. But you have new people who are looking to get into the market, and they click on these videos and they go into these coins, and it's like, you're going to lose your money. Like, the thing that has longevity is Bitcoin. That's why I said before, and we'll repeat again, before we get to the halving, before we have gotten to this crazy monumental halving, it might be necessary for you to take a couple of minutes out of your day to reevaluate your portfolio to see if Bitcoin is right for you. I understand that we've been together for a long time, and a lot of you out there, if you don't own Bitcoin, I don't know how you are watching this channel. I literally don't understand it. It might be time for you to sit down and think. You may not like Bitcoin as a coin. You may think that Bitcoin's really slow, but understand that Bitcoin is the winner, is going to continue to win. And at some point when we get to $1 million Bitcoin, I do not want you to sit there sad because you don't have any Bitcoin. That's why I've said before, it might be time for you to reevaluate to see if even just 1 million Satoshis is right for your portfolio, because if you haven't been paying attention to the trend of what's been going on in the world, I'm not really sure how much more that I can actually help you. Yes, there's another person. His name is Vijay Boyapati. It says internet personality. It sounds fancy. And the author of The Bullish Case for Bitcoin is also talking about Bitcoin's price and how he says he's expecting Bitcoin to also double over the course of the next couple of months. He said, but once you really get to an all-time high, there's really no overhang of supply. And then you have an open field of price discovery where the price can start to go parabolic. Yes, understand. We are literally, at the doorstep. And how do I say this? One of the greatest things to me is time. I don't personally care for getting older, but I do appreciate the fact that I've been making videos for so long that I can literally go back and tell you to look a couple of months ago. I watched something. It's really funny. I clicked on a video on Twitter, and it was about, it was something about, what's this guy's name? Jack Dillon, the guy who made Strike or Stripe. I can't remember his name. And he was sitting, and it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my entire life. And he was talking to these people from CNBC, and they were asking him where he thought Bitcoin was going to go. And he was like, it's going to 1 million. He was saying things so sarcastically that like you just kind of had to sit there and laugh. And then at some point he's explaining to them, in clear baby science, like, Bitcoin does this because of supply and demand. This going to happen because this is taking place. And they were like, Jack, I'm just not understanding. And you know how like they always have that thing during the news segments where like the price of the asset that they're talking about pops up in the corner of the screen and you can see the chart. So you get an indication of what they're talking about. When that chart popped up in the corner, it was Bitcoin at $5,000. And I literally clutched my pearls because I was like, Bitcoin was at $5,000 and he's sitting there talking so sure that this was going to take place. And this is what I'm saying about my videos as well. Like you can go back in time and see us talking every single day about the people who are getting into the market, who are buying up all the Bitcoin. Me sitting there, blue in the face, talking about like, you understand where Bitcoin's going to go, right? You understand how high the market's going to go, right? You understand that if we have Bitcoin ETFs, like Bitcoin's going to skyrocket, right? And then even thinking that like we've almost I think we've more than tripled than where we were just a year ago, and we still haven't gotten to the halving. It's really remarkable. It's actually quite incredible to be able to see, and I'm sure at some point my videos will be in some weird Netflix documentary or some other kind of thing where it's literally just like, of course Bitcoin was going to go in this direction. We're talking about a market where it's estimated that we maybe have 50 million to 100 million people who are just into Bitcoin alone. Estimated. We haven't gotten to 1 billion people yet. What happens when we 10x, 20x the amount of people who are in the Bitcoin market, who are buying Bitcoin? Where do you think the price is going to go? And we've gotten to these prices with current demand. There isn't like we're not seeing 17 million new people per day coming into the market yet. Yeah, major news. Someone else named Dylan LeClaire, very fancy name, is also talking about Bitcoin as well. And I'm so glad this was written at the top. It says a drop to $50,000 seems to be off the table. I assume that Mr. Dillon, I don't know, was probably one of the people who was talking about that Bitcoin had to drop before it can go further. That's been a really weird narrative that people have had for like 6-7 years now in the cryptocurrency market. People keep saying that Bitcoin has to go lower before it can go higher. And it's like, where are you getting those numbers from? It's like a number of years ago where people kept on saying that Bitcoin had to drop down to 20,000 before we could get to 60. And I was like, where are you seeing that exactly on your thing? So Dylan has also joined the group of people who's talking about that Bitcoin, of course, is going to continue to go higher and any major dips are not going to happen anymore. And if they do, as we've been talking about before, just in sheer logic, they're going to be purchased by larger entities. We're no longer sitting in the pool by ourselves. We look over and we're like, oh my gosh, who are all those people on the other side of the pool? And they keep staring at us. It's because they want us to get out of the pool. They want the water for themselves. Any dips that we've had news nearly immediately after that whales have bought it up, or we see the price beginning to rise back up and then we get news, oh no, the ETFs have bought more Bitcoin. How did they do that? Prices were low. Why did they buy when the prices were lower? I can't imagine why they would do that. Also, in the news, I told you would see a pattern, is Mr. Brad Garlinghouse. It says he maintains a positive outlook on the crypto market's performance in this year, foreseeing a doubling in price by December. Yeah, I even think he's quite conservative, but even just his doubling in price gets us, once again, where's the number? $150,000. That gets us exactly where every other analyst was saying the exact same thing by the end of December. The number that everyone has kind of agreed on is we're going to be passing 100,000 within the next couple, and I throw my hands into the air. I'll say months, 2 months, 3 months, passing 100K. The generalized idea is that we're getting to $150,000 by the end of the year. Garlinghouse is talking about a $5 trillion market by the end of 2024. The Ripple CEO cited some of the macro factors as well as the arrival of spot ETFs and the upcoming Bitcoin halving, which will trigger a major rally in the crypto space. You don't understand how excited I am. You can't conceptualize. I don't know what it is. I think it's because I've been waiting for this for so long. For those of you who missed the other videos, like, have you ever seen those things in movies where someone like gives like a prophecy and then like, of course, like years later, the main character goes, the prophecy, like you see it like kind of coming true. When I first got, and I'll retell it again. When I first got into crypto, I was told that 2024 was going to be the beginning of madness for this market. That time frame extended all the way until 2032. So to see that we're actually here at this halving, I'm firing off neurons at like an unexpected like rate. Like it looks, my brain looks crazy. Like I can see everything that's currently happening inside of it. I don't know if it, anyway, I was going to ask if you ever seen the movie Lucy. Incredible. Watch it with Scarlett Johansson. Love it. Amazing movie. Anyway, yeah, he's also talking about the market's about to go up. The market's about to go crazy. And historically, last part, historically, we tend to see the Bitcoin halving bull run last for about a good 18 months. I saw a couple of people, and this is not to discourage, this is not to say anything negative about anyone else, but I saw a lot of people discussing that Bitcoin's price has moved up so quick. For those of you who don't know the time frame, we're about 9 months ahead price-wise. That is to say, we would not normally see these numbers until 9 months down the line. But that's also because we normally didn't have these conglomerates buying up hundreds of thousands of Bitcoin. So I saw a number of people discussing if this bull run was going to be shorter, if this bull run was only going to last until the end of the year, if we might not even make it until 2025, because once again, the 9 months earlier. And I always have to tell people in a very nice way, what you're not adding into the equation is that we would have moved up in price regardless. Remember, we were talking about that other video. There was someone who made every other halving 3 months after the halving, and 6 months after the halving, Bitcoin's price has always moved up. For those of you who don't know the number, it's on average between given the time frame between 3 to 6, it's anywhere from a 33% increase to an 81% increase that we've seen over the course of that time across multiple halvings. The idea is meet in the middle. People are expecting a 50% rise in Bitcoin within the next 3 months. That's the generalized idea because we always see the market move up. A lot of people once again think, well, the price is moving up a little bit too quick, too early. And it's like, you're not factoring in the fact that BlackRock is in this market. Banks are trying to buy Bitcoin because there's not a lot left. They're going directly to the people who are mining. What we're seeing is completely normal, but it's freaking people out because I think we're not used to this amount of attention on the cryptocurrency space. We're literally not. We're used to it just being us. We're waiting in the pool by ourselves until we get to the halving, and then we see other people slowly getting into the pool. I don't know why I keep using pool, but it does make a lot of sense if you think about it in that context. It's the only way that we've had to deal with this market before. The reason why the price has gone from 17, 20, 23,000 to 70 something thousand dollars in a short period of time is because there is not a lot of Bitcoin. It is literal supply and demand. You can't sit there and say or suck your teeth and go, well, yeah, we get that. Cool. But why is it going up? That means you don't understand supply and demand. There's not a lot of supply. The demand has always been high. If you take BlackRock and Fidelity out of the equation, just the normal market, just retails and the other smaller companies, and I mean small, MicroStrategy, air quotes, companies who've been in the space, they've already been buying multiples per day of the amount of Bitcoin that's being mined. But it doesn't sound as fancy if you cumulatively say 50 to 100 million people are doing it. So if you say that there's one company doing it, that people go, oh my gosh, it's not just BlackRock's story. It's all of us. We're all in this market together. We have already all been buying multiples of how much Bitcoin there is actually created per day. We've been doing it for a while. There's not a lot left. What you've been seeing is literal normal buying pressure. When you hear that these companies are trying to buy OTC over the counter and they're going directly to a crypto exchange, like, sitting with them in an office and handing them money and them getting that crypto on a USB or simply having it transferred to an address so you don't see the buy and sell order on a crypto exchange, it's because they know that the moment if they did that on a computer, the price would skyrocket. They have to buy over the counter. Why are you, as a major banks, going directly to the people who are mining it? Is because you don't want any of that transaction history to hit anyone. You don't want people to see this bank just bought $38 million worth of Bitcoin and they're doing it every single day. It's supply and demand. The supply is dwindling. The demand continues to pump ever higher. Over and over and over. Of course, this was logically going to happen. We are early in our price movements, but it's only because these companies have been buying up all the coins. You don't know what's coming. You're not understanding. You're literally not getting it. And it's going to be, once again, it's going to be a situation where people only get it when the light bulb goes off and they go, I should have gotten more before, or I should have gotten any. Bitcoin's worth 100K. I should have gotten some before. I just saw a house for sale, $320,000. That's the value of one Bitcoin. You start watching documentaries and you see these mansions in Texas and these other places for $1 million, and you look and go, Bitcoin's $1 million. I could have got it for 15,000. It doesn't take a lot of buying pressure. What we're going to experience very, very soon is a lot of normal people rushing to Kraken, rushing to Binance, rushing to Coinbase to make new accounts or to reactivate their account that hasn't been used in the last 3 to 4 years. And they're going to start buying more. That buying pressure just from normal people, $50, $300, $1,500, is going to drag a lot of Bitcoin out of the liquidity pool. And it's going to decrease. We're going to see institutions. We're seeing this all the time. For those of you who weren't here the other videos, there's someone on Twitter who people are calling Mr. 100. We've gone over him about 5, 6, 7 times. For those of you who are unaware, it's an account that for months now has been buying 100 Bitcoin a day. The problem is that a lot of times this person's even buying more than 100. People are calling him Mr. 500, Mr. 700, Mr. 900, because some days he's buying 500 Bitcoin in one day. This is one wallet. That equates to an enormous amount of Satoshis and Bitcoin that normal people will never be able to own. This person's buying entire Bitcoin. Of course, the crypto market is about to go higher. Of course, we've seen this gigantic movement because we know, just looking at the numbers, if all this was happening behind the scenes, we probably would not have had any crazy price increases. But it's because the public knows and we have public records. So we can see that these ETF companies got to 300,000 Bitcoin in a number of months. People would not have paid attention, but it's in the public consciousness now that we can see that this is currently going on. all the other accumulation that we don't see, that's what the public's not paying attention to. So whenever the prices go down or prices are trending sideways, I'm like, no, that's when the rich people are like buying up all the coins. You just don't see it. So the price goes down and people lose faith, and it's like you're in for the shock of a lifetime. Yeah. I told you there would be a huge pattern. It's the same thing that everyone has been talking about for a long time, but for some reason today, everything kind of lined up with all these analysts talking about the exact same thing. Worst case scenario is doubling by the end of the year. And that's Bitcoin doubling. That's not even where the altcoins are going to go. Because once the halving happens, altcoins completely tend to lose their minds. It's going to be like one of the I'm telling you, you are going to wake up. I have one of my best friends. Hello. I was explaining the halving to him and like what ends up happening, at least from what I've seen and experienced in other halvings. You're going to wake up some mornings and you'll see that the market is up. You'll see that it's green, but you won't really like conceptualize what it means. You'll check your portfolio and you'll see that while you slept, you made like $14,000. And you won't know mentally what to do because it's not something that the everyday man will experience. Normal people don't make $14,000 in a day, especially from having done absolutely nothing. And then you look at your portfolio. This has happened to so many people in the cryptocurrency space. They look one day and they see that they have a 6-figure portfolio. The money that would have taken them 2 or 3 years working every single day to be able to make. You literally have no idea what's coming. And I'm very excited that we all get to experience it together. Yeah. Moving ever closer to the halving. It's going to be a lot of fun. Chaotic, but a lot of fun. I do sincerely hope that you've all enjoyed. I do hope that you all are having a great day. Morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever you might be, I do hope it's absolutely fantastic. Thank you all once again for watching, listening, liking, commenting, and supporting. And I will most certainly be talking to you all soon. See you.